After many delays, we are going to take apart the Reolink video doorbell camera to look for the quality of the build, the material durability, and identify some of the components inside. I have already snapped this front cover off. This is the first part. You want to use one of those little plastic spudgers or something to get this off. Looks like a guitar pick for some people, or use a metal one. There's 10 little retention clips around the edge that snap onto the front here, and this is what holds this on here. I didn't want to pry this off and make a whole bunch of noise and racket that will mess up the headphone viewers while I take this apart. There are 6 screws. 5 of them are just plain stainless screws, and one of them is like a black oxide screw that goes, I don't know why they did it, but it's got some silicone and it's black in color. I think it's black oxide because it is visible in the back, because there's a much bigger recess in the back for the network connection, the RJ45 network jack. So you got a small little recess here for the SD card slot and the 12 volt connections here for your doorbell transformer, or the transformer that comes with the PO or the Wi-Fi model. And they both have this RJ45. This is the PoE model here, but there's such a large recess in the cavity of the camera body that screw hole will show through. So we'll take that one out first and see if we can get some of these don't want to let go because they got the little bit of silicone to hold these puppies in here. And we'll just take them all out here. There is one screw on the inside I am missing because I did take this apart many times just in practice and looking at things and writing down this list of things I've identified. And the last time I took it apart, I was trying to record this video and my camera wasn't staying in focus, and my microphone had a terrible echo because it was recording 2 microphones at once, which I didn't want. Not to complain too much, but we'll fill our time here while I'm taking these screws out. And that's why there is one missing screw on the inside, and some of these are easy to pop out and some of them just don't want to come out. This is the one that they put some silicone on, in the black oxide one that comes all the way through. And then once you get the screws out, why are you not coming out? The back will come off with the little spring clip here for this is the spring clip that locks onto the bracket, and you have to get a little retention tool, small screwdriver. I've used a nail or the head of a rivet to pop this off of my door, and that's what removes that. Before I take this part too far, when you do install it, you must install it vertical like this on the wall. Do not do sideways, do not do upside down. It must be upright. And that is because we have this little recess here for the retention clip is a drain hole on the bottom, and then you have the speaker grill on the bottom, which feels like it could be a drain, but they do kind of glue and tape the speaker in here to help seal it, which I'm not sure why, because it would be a good place to drain any moisture, but it is sealed. If you do mount it sideways or upside down, the 2 biggest vulnerabilities are this RJ45 and the SD card are open to the inside. This isn't Reolink's fault. These are industry standards for an SD card and a regular network cable. To make these watertight, they would have to re-engineer some proprietary thing. They can't just use one of these water seals that they use for the other PoE cameras, because where is all this going to fit on your door jamb? It's just not going to fit anywhere. Now, I've talked to Reolink before and mentioned they need to include a little packet of dielectric grease to help keep moisture out, because this is the biggest vulnerability. This is, I'm going to back up and change gears here. This is made of a ABS polycarbonate blend with a UV stabilizer mixed in. So you're not going to get much wear and tear on this from UV sunlight. It does, I don't know if you can tell, it does have this kind of slightly, I don't know what you would call it. It's not like a brushed finish, but it's got this finish to it where it's going to hide scratches, I think, pretty good. So this, so far, outside of these SD card network connections, this material here they've chosen, and it's got a glass lens, so we don't have any plastics that are going to delaminate from sun exposure. This could last 5-10 years in the right environment. I would recommend putting a small bead of caulk or silicone just from here up to the top and around before pushing this against your wall, just to keep water from coming in here and wanting to go there. I would not do anything below here. Don't put any adhesive or silicone or caulk down here. Leave that open so it can drain. You want things to drain out the bottom. You don't want to seal it here and keep things pooling up in here. And the same thing, you don't want to mount this thing upside down. You mount it upside down, water can hit your house in a driving rain and come in the siding and come in here and go into your network jack and SD card. And it might not be a problem right away, but over the years of it being cold at night and humidity condensing in here, you'll start to get a little bit of fuzzy corrosion on there, and then you'll have bad connection with your network jack and SD card. The low voltage terminals seem to be pretty well designed to protect against that if you tighten them up well, and they are molded in with the injection here. So we got the cover off. The front cover's already been pried off previously. Once you get your 6 screws out, you just want to kind of start to pull this thing out. Now this is pressed in because there is let me grab it. There is an O-ring all the way around the outside. So this is fully sealed, and it does kind of make a little change in direction to go around this bottom snap. So that's not going to be, you can see it kind of gets a little thicker here. Let me grab these. So we got 5 millimeters regularly, and then it jumps up to 6, where the little retention clip is for the bracket, and that's where the O-ring grabs onto the perimeter of the base here. Now, as you can see, sealed into the back cover in the injection mold is the low voltage connections, and then here's another silicone seal they've made, and that's just for the reset button. So that's also been made very waterproof, because right here is the reset button, but that's got a seal on it. And then those 2 screws looks like they've been sealed in there, and that's what holds a little spring bit for the retention clip, and that's also been sealed in there, so that's not coming out. The way this low voltage terminals work is they are sealed in with the injection mold, so they are never going to leak, and they press against 2 little springs on the motherboard that make contact to send voltage to the voltage circuitry down here. So we've got this open. Now there should be 2 screws here for the to go through the speaker into the motherboard. Unfortunately, one went flying. I got to get a magnet and try to grab it off the carpet here, but being stainless, they're not perfectly magnetized, unfortunately. All right. And that normally doesn't pop off that easy. This speaker is adhered to the bottom case. So you got 2 screws down here. There's 2 on this daughter board here. Do not take off the top screws. Those are only holding the lens to the image sensor. And I've had problems with my doorbell ever since I did that. I cannot get it to focus to reach anything less than 10 feet from this camera anymore. So I have sacrificed this one for the greater good of everyone else. You're welcome. So take off the bottom ones. And then there is what is like a ribbon cable connector under here. So like press on the lens and pull up and it'll pop out. And you'll have, see, there's a little ribbon cable connector type right here that connects to the daughter board with the image sensor and your image processing chip that does your AI stuff in there. And that pops off the main motherboard. So there is the camera daughter board, which has the network port in it, and it also has the SD card holder on this little daughter board right there. I'll put that right there. Oop, come on, camera, focus. And now we have 5 more screws. There's 2. There's 1 here, which I think there's only 1 on this side, not that side, probably because there's some components over here they couldn't clear out of the way. And they also wanted to have a screw here to keep this ribbon cable type connector from being jammed and pulled too hard. Not that I think they ever intended for this to be taken apart, but I'm doing it. So 3 more to go. Now you can pop the speaker connector off here and start to pull and shimmy this. I'm not sure if that was a adhesive like butane sticker or butyl sticker, or if that was just silicone that was holding the speaker sealed to the bottom of the housing. And I don't see any other holes into this for the speaker to be used to like drain from the housing into the speaker out the grill. So I think it's meant to be sealed for better or worse. So there's our speaker. I got 1 more screw here. Now this was a big pain to get out, and I did some adjustments to mine. In here is fine at the top, and around the middle stanchions are fine. These bottom stanchions, they were so tight, it was practically pressed on there. So once I did get it apart, I did kind of file these open a little bit so it would be easier to pop in and out. And then after you get those screws out, slowly roll it over, and you gotta unsnap your IPX snaps for your 433 antenna down here. And then if this was a Wi-Fi, you'd have your Wi-Fi dual band antennas on the sides here and here, which this is the PoE, does not have the Wi-Fi. We'll get into that here in a second here. And then there's more seals. These should be in here, but I forgot them the last time I pulled it apart. You got seals up here for the dual microphones. So there's a seal on each side. You got a seal right here. So you got a seal here. And where is it? I'll put it back. This is my fault, not Reolink's. Where did I put it? Just dropped it. Where did I drop it? There it is. Push these back in there. So you have a seal on each side for each dual microphone. You got a seal around here for the lens. You got a seal around here for the button to keep the button and the LEDs safe. And then the infrared lens is injection molded in with the rest of it. It's probably another ABS polycarbonate blend that is somewhat transparent clear instead of being black. So that is, I just kind of keep these pieces. I might as well take them apart. I just keep these because there is a small notch here, a flat spot. Can I get this up in the, yeah, there's a flat spot that lines up with this piece when you set it in there. And here's the other seal for so we got two seals for the microphones, seal for the lens, which is really thick, pressed in there real good. So that's going to keep the lens from letting water in, the seal around the button. Alright, let's start looking at some components here. This right here is your image processing chip that does your person detection. This doorbell from Reolink does not do vehicle detection or their pet detection. It just does person detection currently. I don't know if they can do a change in the future with a firmware update and bring those other features to this model, but just does person, which kind of makes sense because this is just meant to be mounted on your door and people shouldn't be driving into your door. So this is your image processing chip with the AI in it. This is the NT98566. I believe over here is one of your flash memory modules here. I believe there's one over here, I believe, as well. Under this tape, this is hard to identify. I'm not sure what the purpose of the tape is, because this is your SoC, your TH1520 GMA actual main processor. It's right under the network jack. And then, so it goes like that and like that. So you kind of have a heat sink here through the daughter board for the SoC. I don't know if that's, but I've seen pictures online and it only gets up to about, I think, 100 degrees Celsius. It's not terrible. It's not terrible. So under this little piece of tape is your SoC. Right here is your 433 megahertz chip to the indoor chime. It's a CMT 2157B. This is the PoE model, so it does not include the dual band Wi-Fi chip. So right here on this pad, it's the same motherboard, and at some point in manufacturing these split and they make a PoE and a Wi-Fi. I'm not sure why they don't just make one. I think they could make one. I think they should just make one for everyone. So right on these pads here would go your BLM8812CU3 dual band Wi-Fi chip. Would go right there. And then they would have the focus. Then they would also have your dual band antennas on the side. Now the only difference besides missing that chip that I've noticed, only difference I've found so far is this diode and this diode. They got the same caps, and I'm not sure what else is different in the power circuitry, because the PoE can also take low voltage. So I don't know why the Wi-Fi can't take PoE. They would just need to move those diodes and make the same power circuitry as the PoE, put the Wi-Fi module on it, and update the firmware as far as I'm concerned. So I will try to include a picture of the Wi-Fi where you see this diode and this diode have been moved around, and if you can see anything else different, let me know. But I'm not sure what else is different. I mean, the caps are the same size. I'm not sure what else would be different. So that is your power circuitry. Now, people have talked about this being just a good camera that could be used in other applications, like indoors, outdoors, just a different camera that doesn't need to have the white and blue LEDs and the doorbell button here. It doesn't need to, so they're wondering, could you potentially cut this down, or could they re-engineer this? And I really do think it wouldn't be that big of a deal, because they could cut off about 20 millimeters, about 3/4 of an inch here, because here's your power circuitry. I don't know if they could redesign too much of the rest of it, or need to, because it does keep this recessed. I mean, that does keep the back flush with your network connection and your SD card. So you'd still keep it flush and just be able to cut off this 20 millimeters or 3/4 of an inch here off the bottom, and maybe do a white molding for the case, so you could mount it on the wall indoors, or leave it black, or offer both. I think it would be a great 5 megapixel camera for other purposes besides just a doorbell. They do have a I think it's 1.5 volt button cell battery on here. I'm not sure what else we're going to talk about with this. Take it apart and put it back together. Like I said, you can buy your own tube of dielectric grease to put in the SD card and PoE switch or network jack. I have advised the reps at Reolink they should get these little packets of dielectric grease and include them. They'd be just a couple extra pennies for them to add them to the kit, and it would ensure that this thing lasts 5-10 years on the side of your house. So you put that bead of caulk around just this top here to keep water from getting in the back, the dielectric grease in there to keep any moisture from making a little bit of fuzzy corrosion on the terminals. And this thing, I'm pretty impressed with it. It's a good material with the ABS poly blend. It's good components in here. It's put together well. It's pretty impressive for $100 to $120, depending on which model you get and if it's on sale.